Hi, everyone. Welcome to our Digging Dinosaurs live stream. I am Dr. Georgia Purdom here with Dr. Jennifer Rivera. And just earlier this summer, we got to experience a real live dinosaur dig. So we are going to be spending a little bit of time here talking to you about that. And we really encourage everyone to let us know where you're from so that we can see that. And any questions that you have about digging for dinosaurs, we will do our best to answer. So just put that in the comments. We'll be able to see them and interact with you. All right, so take it away, Jennifer.
Yeah, so we were up in Glendive, Montana at the Glendive Dinosaur and Fossil Museum. And we are also with an organization called FACT, which stands for the Foundation for Advancing Creation Truth. So they were our hosts for this amazing event where we got to learn all about dinosaurs, learn how to dig up dinosaurs, but most importantly, how do we view this evidence that we see through a biblical lens? And that's what's so unique about this experience. So we have some amazing photographs that we want to show you and tell you some stories about our experience. So I know we have some slides to show you of some of those pictures as well. So this year we were up there July 25th through the 29th for 5 days.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it was really obviously Jennifer and I, like Jennifer is a forensic scientist, I'm a geneticist. So we're not used to digging for dinosaurs and being outside like that, but it was really a unique opportunity. And we didn't just do this on our own, obviously, as Jennifer said, because we're not experts in that area, but we partnered with the Foundation for Advancing Creation Truth. And joining us, we have Tommy Lohman, who is the director of that organization. And he is quite the expert in paleontology to help us be able to identify all of the things that or try to identify all of the things that we saw there in Glendive. Hi, Tommy.
Good afternoon. How are you all today?
We're doing
Good.
really
And I see some people joining us from North Carolina and from Ohio. So welcome. We're excited to have you all here with us today for this event.
Yeah. And so we're going to kind of go through a little bit of what our experience was like there, show you some pictures, kind of explain some of those things. And so the picture you're seeing right now of Tommy, so this is at the Glendive Fossil and Dinosaur Museum. It's a great museum there in Glendive. And Tommy, you want to talk a little bit about the museum?
I'd be glad to. The museum opened in 2009, and really our heartbeat was to present dinosaurs, paleontology, and really the flood from the context of biblical history. We orient our thinking like you guys do, as we start with Genesis 1 as being literal history, and so we build upon that thinking. And so the museum was built over a couple of years, and we've continued to flesh out the exhibits and continue to add to the fossils. Part of what we enjoy doing is working with people like yourselves to take people out on real dinosaur digs and do fossil prep, and you get to really the full range of fossil experience. And then hopefully if what you found was really helpful for the museum, we wind up putting a lot of stuff on display that a lot of our guest diggers have gotten to be part of. So that's kind of in a nutshell what we do.
Yeah, and the museum is really great. I highly encourage people, if they're out that way, to visit. It really is great to see some of the fossils, as well as just like you can see some T-Rexes there in the picture, and some of the cast of things. And it really is a well laid out museum, and worth your time to go to that, because it is very rare to find museums that obviously speak from a biblical perspective. So that's what really makes it unique. So what we did was we basically dug in the morning, and then analyzed some in the afternoon. So the picture you're seeing right now is a picture of us actually out at the dig site. So is it the museum that owns this land, or how exactly is it that we have this dig site, Tommy?
Yes, the museum owns this land. The founder, Otis Klein, his heartbeat was for not only to have a museum, but to have property that people can be taken out for a dig experience. So this is our property that we have access to, and we have one key dig site that we're working on. And just continue to prep it and let people get that hands-on experience. I found that while people can have a lot of practical knowledge and even have a good solid biblical worldview about paleontology and dinosaurs, there's just something about putting your hands on the ground, getting on the ground, getting to make those discoveries for yourself. And then, as you mentioned, doing prep in the afternoons, it just kind of sets that realism all that much deeper in your thinking.
We were fortunate too, because you had warned us that it could be extremely hot. And so we were prepared and mentally prepared ourselves for really hot weather. But, God is good. And
Yes.
he knows that Georgia and I don't like 99-degree weather. So we were so fortunate. The week we were there, it was only in the low 80s. It was really beautiful. We had no rain. I don't think we could have asked for better digging weather than what we had that week. So it was truly beautiful while we were out there.
You should have been there 2 weeks later.
That's what I heard.
No.
It got a lot hotter pretty quick.
But it's a really beautiful walk up to the dig site, as you can see here in this photograph.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it really is. It's about a third of a mile, and it's over a little bit of rough terrain, but not too bad. And this is a picture. I think you call this picture rock, don't you?
Picture rock. Everyone that we take up has their picture taken at this rock. And so it's a neat memory for us and for everybody else.
What was really neat too is a lot of these people, were just sharing their stories throughout the week. And for some of them, this was like on their lifelong bucket list, and they finally got to come. And so it was really neat to hear, testimonials from the guests that came and how much they thoroughly enjoyed the experience.
Yeah, you can see us here at the dig site. So this is actually sort of, you're digging into this kind of big wall. Thanks to Tommy and his wife, Martha. Oh, yeah. So Jennifer's showing the tools that you use.
This is all Tommy gave us.
Yes.
A screwdriver and a brush and a rock wall.
And a rock wall. And lots of time. Lots of time.
And lots of time. Yes, you have to be patient.
But that process, it's as much as you point out that wall there and how tall it is. And of course, we're doing a lot of that prep work in advance. Really, when you get down to it, is as much as you think you're in the ground and you just kind of can do anything and you hit a bone, you pull it out, there's a lot of finesse. There's a lot of detail that when you depending on what you find, you really have to spend a lot of time just giving it attention. Because we assume everything's going to be broken in the process, and so we can manage that.
Difficult was figuring out, well, what's a rock and what's a bone, right? And Tommy does a great job of trying to teach you before you go out to the dig site. But even while we're out there, anytime we had a question, we could just ask Tommy or his wife or, someone else who was there, hey, what am I looking at? Because it takes training to be able to tell the difference.
It's just like that picture you see there that they're showing. It's just really hard. I mean, it's hard because you're trying to look for, and I know some of the things like Tommy was telling us, like look for things that have a very like specific shape, like it kind of looks like something, or a specific texture to it, or and so you kind of, and sometimes it would be slightly different color than the surrounding rock. But overall, we would have these piles of like rocks behind us of things like we're digging. And then Tommy's wife, Martha, was looking through them because she knows we're not experts. And we're probably putting things in the pile that we think isn't important that really, really are.
Like here's one of them. Yeah, I don't know if you can see it, but this was in my trash pile. And Tommy's wife came by and she was looking and she says, no. She said, that's a crocodile tooth. You want to keep that. That's valuable. I just thought it was a small rock. So she was really good about picking those things out for us and making sure we got to keep those.
Well, there's such a visual overload when you first get to the dig site. And as you ladies are talking about, there's so much ground and you're trying to kind of find a needle in a haystack, so to speak. But if you remember how you progressed through the week, and I'm going to guess you probably improved with your capacity to recognize things as you go through it. And so as you mentally begin to slow down and get into it, you start looking for the design and the uniqueness of the shapes, the texture, the periosteum, the spongy bone, the marrow, if you will. All those things become more easily caught. That's a nice crock molar you got there, Jennifer.
Yes.
And the slide that's being shown right now, this is like a pretty significant size bone. that one of our people found. I think your people had found it before, Tommy, and then he just kind of continued to dig. And when you're digging too, like what you don't realize, I mean, you watch things like, you know, these Hollywood films, and when they show paleontologists, it's like literally the dinosaurs like nice and articulated, and all they have to do is just, you know, brush things off, and they
yeah,
right, they've got the bones. That is just not reality. Okay, that is not what's happening. So you're digging with a screwdriver and a brush, and so you can see here in this picture, this was a pretty significant size one. Tommy, what did we know exactly what this one was?
Yes, that turned out to be a Triceratops ischium. It's not complete, but it was probably 75% of the bone. And we've already prepped it, and it's on display now in the museum. Scott was the one that worked on that and put a lot of time into it. And it's, as you say, it's Jurassic Park doesn't always help us because because it's not, you know, the process of excavating is just always not glamorous, and these things aren't put together. But I think that's part of the things I enjoy about the process is trying to figure things out.
And you can see, so Tommy can maybe talk us through this. So when we did find a bone that was of significant size, you want to be really careful in getting that out of the ground because you don't want to obviously break it any further. These things are pretty fragile. And so maybe you can explain to us like what they're doing here in these slides and how you go about getting that bone out of the ground well.
Sure. I've got a Tyrannosaur tibia here. See if I can put this up here in front of my face. And so right here, we've got some cracks and breaks. And so this kind of thing is indicative of what we find on some of the larger bones in the ground. And so in order to manage that, we go through and we're working to dig the ground all the way around, and down below, we're basically working to create a pedestal, kind of like a mushroom. And we get the bones situated that way. And then we come with foil, and that kind of provides that first level of protection, a little bit of stability. And then we really just a simple process. It's been in practice for well over 100 years. Is just burlap bags, plaster, water, and we dip the burlap bags into the plaster and start wrapping it around the bone, around the foil itself. And once that sets up, and you'll see that picture there on those two pictures there where they're working on putting the plaster around the fossil itself. Once that sets, then we'll dig down underneath it, break the ground, and flip it out, and we can carry it out that way. And so, and I always enjoy the picture on the right is always fun. When I get my hands with plaster and plaster somebody's back shirts with that, that's a fun way to kind of round that out. But it's a way kind of to create a frame for the bone to be transported, and then we'll get back to the lab. We begin working and prepping it from that underside.
Now, I think it took Scott from the time that we got out to the dig site the first day and he started excavating the picture we were just looking at. How many days was that till he actually was able to plaster jacket it and get it out? Did he get it out Wednesday?
You know, I think so. I want to say he was dealing with something else that was right up against it, but probably he had 3 or 4 hours by himself easily. Right. Mm-hmm. Another couple of hours in it with somebody else working on it. So that kind of bone right there, you know, you can have anywhere from 4 to 6 hours pretty easily just getting the ground ready. And that's part of that.
And what we're seeing
having
here
to be slow.
Is a turtle shell.
Sorry, that's the turtle shell. Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
That was
this was another one that they found.
Now this they actually found this on the last day, didn't they? And they were able to actually excavate it, I think, by the time we left the dig site on Friday. Mm-hmm. I believe it was on the last day. So, but I think they had several people working on it because it was pretty big. That one, there it is. Mm-hmm.
We find a lot of turtle pieces. The shells will easily explode in the burial process, so it's fairly nice to find a reasonably complete turtle, which this one was. I don't think we've started working on prepping it yet, but I think it was a young lady and her father worked on it and did a real good job getting that out.
Yeah, this is a mother-daughter pair that came with us. And again, this was on the daughter's bucket list to be able to come out to this dig. She's a nurse by training. She's a travel nurse. And so it was really, I think that was what was neat to me, was being able to interact with people and see how excited they are. I know Someone just said, the timing of this video is perfect. My homeschool boys are studying paleontology, and yeah, this is fun to do. I mean, even as someone who normally works in like a lab setting that's temperature controlled and all, it was more exciting than I thought it would be. Digging through, because you never knew like when you were going to come up on that bone. And Jennifer, right? This is a great example.
Yeah, so this is actually a picture of my big find. I actually have it right here. If you want to see the real thing. And Tommy identified it as a Triceratops vertebrae. Isn't that correct, Tommy?
Yes, that is correct. I remember it now.
Yes, so they let me bring this home, and it was pretty awesome. So we've shown this to a lot of kids programs that have come through because it's pretty neat to see something like that. So,
and I didn't find anything that big.
No. I think that's a picture of yours, Georgia, isn't it? Isn't this a picture of your?
My favorite piece probably is this one, just because it kind of looks like something. This is a turtle ilium, is what they identified it as. So you can see it has obviously a very distinctive shape, and that's another way to be able to identify the bones.
And then sometimes you find something apparently very rare. Tommy's wife saw this. I wasn't sure. I was like, oh, did I find a tooth? Like, I wasn't sure what this was. And then she said, oh, no, that's coprolite.
Oh, basically, you found coprolite.
That is fossilized poop, which she said is extremely rare. So I got to bring that home. I guess we don't know what it's from, though, Tommy.
No, we don't. We have not gotten to that point in our ability to identify those fossils.
Now, this is a slide showing some of the fossils actually at the museum that you guys have been working on in your more expert, obviously, ways. And can you tell us some of what we're seeing on that slide, Tommy?
Well, that particular slide, that has those are all bones from one dinosaur, to Triceratops. Within the museum, we call him Big John because a gentleman named John found him originally. He was excavated several years ago, over 2 summers. And we're now in the process of prepping the bones, and we'll eventually have him have this Triceratops on display in an articulated fashion. And so we're excited about the process, but it's going to take a long time to get it all done. But we've gotten into it, and I think it's going to really be an impressive find. This particular Triceratops appears to be really big and potentially old. And so I'm looking forward to seeing that pulled together.
Someone asked what the coprolite smells like. It doesn't have a smell. It's mineralized, so.
The original poop is not present anymore.
Yeah. And it was cool, though, as we were digging. One of the things that was kind of remarkable to me is, first of all, you can find a lot of coal. There's a lot of coal veins that run through there, and a lot of petrified wood. And it really smells like really earthy. Very, very earthy. And again, it's just an indication these things aren't millions of years old. We know according to God's word that the earth is only 6,000 years old, that the flood occurred only about 4,000 years ago. So these things really haven't been down there all that long. They were buried quickly, they were buried deeply. And so when you find them, again, they're preserved really, really well. And so that's how we can dig them up and have even some of these smells, maybe not the coprolite, but we can still have some of these smells there still in the ground.
George, you make it's an interesting point and a good one. We find from time to time pieces of petrified wood that will be on one half, say 2/3 of it is fully petrified, and the other side is still fibrous. Maybe it's not burnable, but clearly it is nowhere near the level of petrification and moving away from life as it really originally was, as the rest of it is. And this is one piece. And so you just think, okay, if this took millions of years to occur, then this softer material would be gone. It just defies logic. So what we recognize is time is not a factor here, but there are unique processes that are happening. And that's what the Genesis flood brings to us, is some really interesting and unique processes.
You see here a picture. This is one of the favorite things that I enjoy, because when you dig, I think again, when you dig a bone out of the ground, it doesn't necessarily look pretty. It's got a lot of dirt on it. It's got other sediment on it. And so you have to be able to clean it up to get it to look like the vertebrae that Jennifer has and the ilium that I had, to be able to make it look pretty. So Jennifer, you want to talk a little bit about what we were doing here?
Yeah, so basically Tommy gave us a dental pick and said, start cleaning. So it's another slow process, but I really enjoyed this part of it. And I felt it very satisfying. And then Tommy also has this little tiny like sandblaster, and he can tell you more exactly what it was called, that I got to use to help work off some of the sediment from the vertebrae. And then there was this, which I actually think you said was small pieces of glass. Is that right, Tommy?
We use glass beads. We also use baking soda in that as well. That's a micron blaster, and that's kind of a finishing tool to kind of get the dirt off.
And you have to be careful because you don't want to blast it too much, because then you can actually start wearing away some of the bone. So you kind of have to judge how much you're cleaning on this. But once we get it clean to the point that, Tommy feels you've sufficiently got the sediment off, then there was like this special glaze that we were able to put on some of the fossils to actually kind of help preserve it. And then we also had glue. So if there was a crack or something, we could glue bones back together. Because I think I found, especially digging out of the rock, since the bones are so fragile, they do break as you're trying to excavate them. So then you can kind of glue them back together and see what that bone probably looked like when it was intact.
We're always working to manage that process, as you're alluding to, with the fractures, the breaks. We're always trying to figure out how to figure out what do we want to take apart, what is okay to take apart, clean up and glue together, or what do we not want to come apart. And then we're always looking to just use the right tool for the right level. But it is amazing, and I tell people this frequently. I said, what you see in the ground, sometimes what you thought it might be in the ground, it will become something different once you get all the details fleshed out. But you will be surprised at the level of quality that you will be able to get on the back end once you've gone through the whole process. And you'll see a fossilized bone in your hand, and you'll begin to see the details and the shapes, the attachment points for muscles, the foramen where blood vessels will go through. And so it's a fascinating process from start to finish.
Now, we do have a cool slide here because there were two cool finds that the museum did keep, which means they were really good. And so someone found a T-Rex tooth and also a claw. We don't know what animal the claw was from, but they did find a claw.
I'm trying to think on the claw if we determined it was turtle or crocodilian. I want to say it was turtle, but it was a pretty big claw.
Yeah.
And it's always, finding teeth of any kind are always fascinating. The enamel on them helps them preserve, but finding anything tyrannosaur related just heightens the excitement all the more for everybody.
Yeah, Tommy's wife gave me this tooth. Am I in the camera here? That she said was, I think, Tyrannosaurus. Is that right, Tommy? I think that's what she said, but it was pretty damaged. So she said it looked like it probably bit on something and half of it cracked off.
It could be. It's hard to tell on the screen here.
I think that's what she said it was, though.
I can see the enamel on it, but I can't see the detail real well.
Good size, though.
Hey, Tommy, someone asked, are the fossils from the Hell Creek Formation?
This is the Hell Creek Formation we're working in, yes.
Okay. And so where does that relate? Maybe you could explain a little bit about like I know what you were talking to us about, why all the bones that we find in this area, and this is actually another area, a ranch that we went to look for bones, why they are the way they are. Like, we don't find things that are articulated mainly here. They're disarticulated. It's just a bunch of jumble of bones, and why that is.
Well, the burial process itself was destructive to the animals, and so we recognize that. But the ground would have still been wet and have some movement. I even think about where we were. If you think about our dig site, we had a variety of things. We weren't digging on a skeleton in this particular site, but lots of things, which to me suggests a secondary deposit. What I mean by that is the floodwaters would have put things down, but the floodwaters would have also run off. And so you're going to pick up some level of sediment and move it. We're also in an area where there's an anticline. Geologically, that would be an uplift in the ground. And because our ground is exposed, that tells me, again, there was some erosion going on. So you've got these kinds of things that are really just jumbling and messing things up in a significant way. Yet we still see the stratified layers, which has to be done by water. So we're seeing the effect of water in many levels, but skeletons are just rare as a rule to be found.
Yeah. This ranch that we're showing here, so you can go to the next slide to show you some of the things. Oh, this is a T-Rex femur that we saw at the ranch that's sticking out of the literally the wall there.
Mm-hmm. The bone is that portion more down to the bottom right. The other part that's in the circle is sandstone, which is why the ranch owners have never bothered to get the T-Rex femur out, is just having to deal with that sandstone. Of course, it's eroded quite a bit,
right?
But it makes for a fun spot to stop and see and just be reminded of the process that the burial went, that the burial caused for the ground.
And at this site too, you don't dig, well, you do dig some, but mainly you're finding fossils because there's a lot of erosion that occurs. And as the the rains come and the waters come and probably snow melt and all those things, the fossils actually just appear on top of the ground. I know I was walking up one of the sort of rivulets there and just found some fossils literally just laying on the ground. Now they're a little more damaged because obviously they're more exposed because they've been out like that. So you could already see the spongy bone inside, but this is kind of a cool site where you don't have to necessarily dig.
And this is the process you're always going through, really, is to try to find that new exposure. And as you're talking about, if you find it too late, it's broken up and it's not useful. But sometimes you can find literally a small portion of a bone sticking out, and it turned out to be 20 bones from a part of a skeleton of a Triceratops, as an example. So, that's why
that's what we were working on at this location, wasn't it? When we were digging up the Triceratops, did you believe it was a rib, that one bone we were able to extract here? And you had already excavated.
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
Yes, that was a spot where somebody, again, was just walking like we were doing and found something sticking out. It was a sacrum. I think we got close to a dozen ribs and ischium, both ischiums for that matter. So yes, you just never know what you're going to walk up on.
Yeah, there's what the picture you just saw was called a hoodoo. So it's a cool kind of geological formation that they have quite a few of there. And we got to see that there it is. So it's kind of a neat thing. And Jennifer being victorious because this was not an easy hike in this area. Thanks to Tommy and one of the other guys in the group, we were able to make it up.
If they had not pulled us up, I don't know if we would have made it.
We had our moments, didn't we?
Yes, we did. We did.
It was a lot of fun, though.
Yeah.
Yes, it was.
Somebody asked actually if we had found any sort of soft tissue or blood vessels in the bones. And of course, we're just looking at these at a very macro level. We're not like putting them under a microscope or dissolving the bone away to be able to see the soft tissue. And one of the things I actually gave a presentation, because one of the things we did in the afternoon was give presentations on different aspects of dinosaurs or science and creation. And so I talked a lot about the soft tissue in dinosaur bones, and it is remarkable. So there has been bones from this particular area that they have been able to do some soft tissue research on, like a Triceratops horn, where it's pretty cool to see some of the videos where they're, just after they demineralize it, so take away, the calcium and the phosphate and things like that. It's pretty amazing to see the soft tissue that's remaining and how you can pull it and stretch it, and you can put it under a microscope and you can see the bone cells and the blood vessels, and it is just really neat that we find that. And again, not something you would expect to see in something that's millions of years old. It only makes sense if these bones are much younger and also have been buried deeply and quickly to preserve the tissue like that.
We've had opportunity to, like you're alluding to with the Triceratops brow horn, for that research. We've sent stuff down to Brian Thomas at ICR, the late Dr. Kevin Anderson. He's gotten stuff from us, soft tissue, collagen, things of that nature. Blood vessels have been found. We're not doing that work in-house, but we've been fortunate to be able to help facilitate that work for others. All that's to say is I anticipate that most of our bones are going to have, to some degree, some of these types of remains.
Yeah. Somebody's asking where we're talking about. So we are in Glendive, Montana, and we are digging in the Hell Creek Formation there in Glendive. And so So this is another picture of all of us in our group there at the ranch after a day of hiking around. And yeah, I slid a lot. So funny story, I'm not the best hiker in the world. So anyways, because I spend a lot of time in the office. So I was really glad my pants were really sturdy and I could slide down some of these hills that I couldn't actually walk down or hike down. So that was a good thing. So
Tommy
You did not.
introduce, I was going to say, he introduced a tool to us like a couple days in. Now, I didn't realize that we could dig with a hammer and it would make all the difference in the world. So Georgia and I found out, I think it was on day 3 or day 4, that you could take the hammer with your screwdriver and get a lot more done by just
We don't.
literally hammering it in.
We don't give hammers to just anybody right off the bat. We have to kind of gauge where they are with that skill set.
Right.
But we felt by day 3, Jennifer, you were ready for a hammer.
Thank you. It changed my life. I really enjoyed it.
I know it did.
I got a lot more accomplished.
But
Of course, I think
where was this tool on day 1, right?
there's always the danger that I might have maybe accidentally fractured something that I was trying to get out. But still, that was a pretty cool way to do it too, though. So yeah.
Yeah.
We have I just going to say we have a range of tools we use for different things.
Right.
Yeah, and I think too, I mean, I know we're not the most patient people in the world. And so sometimes we want to dig, a little quicker, a little faster, a little deeper. And yeah, so you can do that. But I do remember when we got to the site and you handed us the screwdriver and the brush, and I was like, you've got to be kidding. I mean, it makes sense. Like once you start doing it, you realize, because you don't want to hack into something like accidentally. Like you got to be really careful. I get that, but wow, it is very you have to be a patient person in some ways, and to be able to do that for long periods of time. So
My dad used to tell me to do as I say and not as I do. And so I find myself sometimes having to remind myself of the very things I tell diggers to do. It's to be patient, take your time, don't hurry, don't rush. So I understand, I can relate to that.
Yeah. So the last slide here. So people that maybe don't know Jennifer and I very well, but we are coffee connoisseurs.
We are.
And so we really like to try the coffee. And so there was a couple of different places in Glendive that we tried out, especially Craven's. We really liked their coffee, so we gave it 2 thumbs up. And we always have to experience the local coffee, shall we say, in the area. So that's pretty important part of our trips anyway.
Yes.
So we want to finish up here by talking about a few resources that we have, and talk to you too, because we are going to be doing this again, a dinosaur dig, sponsored by Answers in Genesis and the Foundation for Advancing Creation Truth with Tommy. And it's going to be, let me make sure I get the dates right, July 22nd through the 26th, 2024, correct?
That's correct.
All right. So we'll have registration on our website at the answersingenesis.org website, where you can sign up for that and be able to go to that.
Yes, we do have a web page with just a little bit of information on that. But as we get closer to registration opening, there'll be more details.
Great. And do you want to talk a little bit, Jennifer, about some of our educational programs? Because this is part of our larger educational programs that we offer here at Answers in Genesis. And so you want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, so this is one of our offsite events, and we do have a couple offsite events. We also have a Red River Gorge event coming up in the spring, where we'll be hiking about 8 miles down there. But we also offer here at the Creation Museum and the Ark Encounter 1-day programs for our kids, and we also have summer camps. And at both of these, we do offer something called Explore Fossils, where the kids do learn how to plaster jacket. We'll be talking about fossils. We'll talk about the flood and what fossils we find and which layers and why. And so those programs you can find on our website at creationmuseum.org/explore. The juniors are for our children ages 5 to 10, and our Explore days are for our older kids ages 11-18. And these are just 1 day here at the museum or the Ark Encounter. You have to, you can check and see which location you would prefer to go to, and then they can come learn all about this from a biblical worldview right here at our attractions.
Yeah, and if you have any trouble finding or remembering the website, you can go to either the Creation Museum or the Ark Encounter website. Just click on the Education tab at the top, and then it will take you to all of the programs. We also offer labs for high school students that are homeschooled, and so we do those. We have some that we do throughout the year. You can see biology, chemistry, forensics, environmental science, and physical science. And so we're offering those every year. And then we also have at the Ark Encounter, we have lab intensive. So these are 1 week intensives in which you study and get those, that core set of labs that you need for a biology or a chemistry class that you would be taking in high school. And so we offered those first just this past summer. We'll be offering them again next summer. So again, those are on the education tabs on both the Creation Museum and the Ark website. And so we encourage you to come out for that. And this just shows, again, some of the amazing dinosaurs that we have here at the Creation Museum. So this is in part of our dinosaur den, and Buddy Davis has done an amazing job of creating and reconstructing these dinosaurs. You see the big old T-Rex here, and he was on the dinosaur digs for many years, correct, Tommy?
Well, he sure was. He sure was.
He really loves them, and he's got a lot of great resources that you can check out at answersingenesis.org. Like I Dig Dinosaurs, that's obviously right in line with what we're talking about here. But a lot of his other adventures that he's taken, and again, gives a very strong biblical worldview in looking at these various sites and everything that all the creatures that God has made, whether they're alive now or dead now, and that we dig up and understand more about the past. From a biblical worldview. This is our Allosaurus, and named Ebenezer, and his skull there is on the screen. It's in a separate box because it's one of the most complete Allosaur skulls that's ever been found. And so we have obviously we have the real bones of it. And it's pretty amazing to see that here.
We do have a new Discover presentation here at the Creation Museum that is free, and it's included with your admission, all about the Allosaurus. We do have dinosaur presentations. We have a T-Rex presentation as well. So that's something else you want to check out on our website to see which programs are available when you visit here.
And all of those DVDs that we just showed you too, they're not just on you don't have to just buy them as DVD. We also have a streaming platform called answers.tv that you can watch those there as well. And then we just saw a slide of some of our different resources that we have for children, like Dinosaurs for Kids, Dinosaurs of Eden, and Dinosaurs Stars of the Show. That's just some. We have many, many resources on dinosaurs because this is one way, sadly, that people use to try to get kids to believe in evolution and millions of years. And so, and away from God's word and God's truth. And so we want to be able we have these resources available that you can use to teach them about dinosaurs from a biblical worldview. So I think we're basically out of time for today. I don't see any new questions. So I want to thank our audience for joining us. Tommy, thank you for joining us and helping us learn more about this. We hope that you will join us in 2024 for the Dinosaur Dig. So just be watching the website for more information on how to register for that. And we'll see you again soon.